Let's begin with a little history lesson. In 1965, Congress enacted the Higher Education Act as an initiative to provide financial assistance for students in post-secondary and higher education. Then in 1972, the act was amended to enact the federal Pell Program, which provided funding for students who could not afford to pay for higher education. Students with an average household income of $50,000 or less were eligible to apply for Pell Grants. Furthermore, prisoners were also qualified to receive Pell Grants to use towards their post-secondary education during incarceration. However, with the increase in crime and pressure from the public, Congress passed the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994 as an effort to reduce crime. Among other things, the crime bill banned assault weapons, enforced stricter laws against violence against women and children, authorized the death penalty for existing federal crimes, and increased funding for law enforcement and policing. Interestingly, however, a provision of the crime bill also banned prisoners from receiving Pell Grants during their incarceration. There are great public policy reasons for the crime bill. Banning assault weapons may reduce gun violence, stricter laws against violence may deter violence, and increased funding for law enforcement may make the streets safer. But where does the Pell Grant ban for prisoners come into play? In fact, since the passing of the crime bill, the rate of incarceration in the nation increased dramatically, and the prison population exploded. Furthermore, it is estimated that about 95% of prisoners will be released back into society. Let's think about this for a second. The crime bill was enacted to reduce crime, yet more people are being incarcerated at an even faster rate. More importantly, how is preventing prisoners from receiving Pell Grants supposed to reduce crime? Take a few seconds to think about it. You're right, it doesn't. On the contrary, providing educational opportunities for prisoners has shown to reduce recidivism, reduce millions in taxpayer costs, and break generational cycles of crime and poverty. The Correctional Education Association conducted several studies to show the relationship between post-secondary education in prison and prisoner recidivism. It showed that simply attending school behind bars reduced the likelihood of reincarceration by 29%. A study in the state of Illinois found that their post-secondary correctional education programs yielded a recidivism rate of 13.1% as contrasted to the general population rate of 39.2%. And finally, a U.S. Department of Education study found that in Texas, the overall recidivism rate for college degree holders was as low as 12% compared to a system-wide recidivism rate of 43%. Before we go further, let's take a moment to ask ourselves, what are some factors that make an individual likely to end up in prison? More often than not, it's a person's socioeconomic background. The Congressional Research Service conducted a study on educational backgrounds of non-incarcerated and incarcerated individuals. As shown in the graph, a significant percentage of prisoners have less than a high school degree, and merely 2% have a bachelor's or higher. And this chart shows that the median annual income of incarcerated individuals amounted to nearly half of their non-incarcerated counterparts. So what do all these studies and statistics infer? Simply put, the less educated a person is, they're less likely to make money, are more likely to engage in criminal activities, and more likely to end up incarcerated. And without educational opportunities, the cycle repeats over and over again. Not all prisoners are evil. In fact, most prisoners, like every human being, have dreams and goals. Unfortunately, many of them are forced to abandon their dreams and resort to crime as a last resort in order to meet the most basic needs, such as food and shelter. Remember this: Can a prisoner break free from this vicious cycle? There is one hope. If the Real Act of 2019 is passed, prisoners will once again be eligible to receive Pell Grants to be applied to their post-secondary education during incarceration. But further measures must be taken to ensure that prisoners receive and continue to receive quality educational opportunities during incarceration. First, prisoners should be exempted from Pell Grant repayment requirements resulting from early withdrawal of courses or a change in enrollment status. This is because prisoners are subject to extraordinary circumstances beyond their control, which may force them to drop out of a course or force them to switch from being a full-time to a part-time student. Second, there needs to be more classroom spaces within the prisons. Prisons were made primarily to house inmates, and with the overcrowding of prisons, there is a limited amount of space to conduct classes for all prisoners seeking to pursue educational opportunities. And lastly, spread awareness. How many of you had known this issue before today? I know I didn't. This is an issue that affects not only prisoners, but the public as well. In order to live in a better future, we need to start acting today.